we start with laser diodes. The target audience is obviously the 6th semester students, electronics engineering students. First thing, that a semiconductor laser has multi-layer heterojunction structure. Okay, now the next thing is the laser diode operates by stimulated emission. Here I need to make it clear what is stimulated emission. Perhaps you are already aware of the optical physics, where you must have come across this term stimulated emission, spontaneous emission. Normally what happens, I'll just throw a little bit of light so that you can relate it. Normally what happens is, at the ground level there are maximum numbers of electrons, and these electrons, due to the random fashion of movement, are thermally agitated and get excited to higher energy states. Now when they move from lower, that is the ground level, to higher energy state, they stay there for some time and then again they fall back to the ground energy state. When this happens naturally, it is spontaneous emission. But suppose some of the electrons are externally provided certain energy through maybe incident light or external heating or whatever, or external current, voltage, whatever signals are provided. In whichever method they are provided, what happens is, when they are externally given in the, or they are pumped up to the higher energy state, these electrons again fall back from the higher energy state to lower energy state, and while they fall off, they emit photons. This particular process, since this is not natural but it is caused due to external stimulated signals, so it is called stimulated emission. So that is where the most important thing happens is, laser diodes operates by stimulated emission. Next, laser is emitted only when population inversion is achieved through input of threshold current ITH. Here I will make you understand this population inversion. By one thing, suppose there is ground level 1, next higher energy state E1, and another higher energy state E2. Higher energy state E1 is lesser than E2, and ground level at the lowest level, energy level wise. Now normally the system is, we have maximum number of electrons at the ground level. Some of them might get external stimulation or get thermally agitated and attain that much of kinetic energy so as to move from ground level to E1. And any particle which is very highly kinetic energy, it has attained high kinetic energy, it moves up to E2. But if you go by the number of electrons, the electron concentration, it is maximum in the ground level, some in E1, and still lesser in E2. So lower the energy level, higher the concentration of electrons. This is normal. But suppose by some method we are pumping in these electrons to higher energy states, not only to E1 but rather E2. In that case, that is where, if you look at the population, the electron concentration at E2 is higher as compared to E1, which is opposite to the normal phenomenon, the natural phenomenon. This condition is called population inversion. Now we are coming back to this, where we talked about population inversion. Now it is achieved through input of threshold current ITH. I just mentioned that by some method we apply external current or some external agitation so that the electrons on the ground level are directly pushed up to the highest energy state, E2 suppose. That is causing population inversion, that is highest number of electrons in the highest energy level and lesser electrons on the lower energy level. That population is inversion is achieved through input of threshold current. Next, The structure of laser diode is that of an LED with Fabry-Pérot cavity. Now, Fabry-Pérot cavity, this is one particular structure. It is very much obvious in the optical physics, but for people easy reference I'll rather mention this, that the cavity consists of two mirror like surfaces defining the direction of photon plots. So this particular structure, the cavity with two mirror like surfaces, is known as Fabry-Pérot cavity, and this two mirror like surfaces actually defines the direction of photon flux, that is the movement of photons, on which direction will it actually come out, and otherwise it is blocked. And how do we achieve this defining the direction of photon flux? It is done by cleaving and polishing two sides and sawing the other two sides. Now cleaved and polished surfaces will allow the light to move out, while the photons to move out, while the sawed sides will not allow, it will rather reflect back the light and it will not allow the light or the photons to move out. So that is how the photon flux is defined. If you look at this picture, I'll just talk about the Fabry-Pérot cavity. So here we have the two cleaved surfaces along which the photons are emitted, and this is the sawed end where from along which the photons cannot be coming out. And if you look, this is a little bit of misprint here. It is P gallium arsenide and N gallium arsenide. So P and N junction, and here is this junction is the actual active layer, and on N side and P side we have ohmic contacts forming. On the P side we have anode, while the N side we have cathode. So this is the structure of an LED. This is a schematic representation rather. And the two structures, laser structures that are very popular is, one is homojunction. Homojunction means the two junctions, it is formed by the same kind of material. P and N material are same, gallium arsenide, so gallium arsenide for both. That is homojunctions. The junction is formed from the similar materials. While if dissimilar materials form the junction, it is known as heterojunction. And double because they are double layered over here. It is, if you see, this is P type gallium arsenide in between, but the P and N type form materials forming are aluminium gallium arsenide P type and N type aluminium gallium arsenide. So it is double layered heterojunction gallium arsenide semiconductor laser. So these are the usual structures that are referred. Next we come for lasing to take place. Now lasing is the verb form of the laser output. The operation of laser when the output starts coming is known as lasing. So for lasing to take place, a sufficiently high concentration of carriers must be injected into the active region. This has to be done to obtain to induce population inversion. Now since high concentration of carriers are injected into the active region, hence laser diodes are also called injection laser. Next is output laser power. That is when the output of the laser diode comes in, that power depends upon two things, the forward current and the temperature of the laser diode. Two things determine the output laser power. When the current is below threshold, it is like an LED, and after the threshold current appears, only then the laser starts its output as laser output. Otherwise it is behaving like a normal LED. Now you look at the graph where we have output power of laser versus the forward current for different temperatures. If you just take a look, on the x-axis we have forward current in milliamperes, and in the y-axis we have output in watts. Now for temperature T1 the graph is like this. For temperature T2, which is greater than T1, it moves further ahead, yani threshold is increasing, and again then here this particular lines are actually where lasing takes place, that is laser action starts, and this particular portion before threshold is the normal behavior of an LED. So you can from this particular graph also you can just take a point of the output power level for LED and laser. and as an additional point I just mentioned, because when we'll compare, it will come to us that which has better output power. And if the temperature further increases, then in that case the threshold current is further required. It increases, the required threshold level increases, and then it starts raising. So we have to keep in mind that T1 is less than T2 is less than T3. So now we come to the comparison of LEDs and laser diodes. The properties on which we are actually comparing LEDs and laser diodes, first is structure. Structure, obviously LEDs are simple as compared to all those fabric cavity and all that regarding laser diodes, so it is quite complicated. Manufacturing LEDs is very easy as compared to laser diodes because of the complexities in its structure. Cost wise, LEDs are very cheap as compared to laser diodes. Obviously the cost of laser diode depends upon its specifications. At times it is very costly, if the prices cannot even be compared to LEDs, but for simple operations the laser diodes can be comparable to LED. Even then it is expensive than LED. Power output, we just mentioned, LEDs have quite less output power as compared to laser diodes. Temperature sensitivity. Now temperature sensitivity wise, LEDs are quite independent of temperature as compared to laser diode. Laser diodes are very much dependent upon the temperature, the junction temperature particularly. Next, directionality. Directionality means the output power in which direction it moves out. That is directionality. So for LEDs there is no particular direction, and for the laser diodes it is very highly directional. That perhaps you have also observed. If you have observed the laser lights, then you can see how you must have observed how directional it is. Next, electronic circuitry. The basic circuitry of LED and laser diode, if we compare, obviously LEDs are simple as compared to laser diodes. Next, coupling efficiency. Coupling efficiency means source, LED and laser diode both are sources. So how much of light is actually coupled from LED into the optical fiber, and how much light is put in by a laser diode within the optical fiber as a source. So coupling efficiency for LEDs is quite low because it gets diffused, while laser diodes are very directional, so it is moderately high. Next is lifetime. Lifetime means how long the behavior, the photon emission is standard. So in that case it is quite longer for LEDs and very short for laser diodes. Laser diodes have a tendency of getting destroyed due to the over junction temperature, and they usually get destroyed because of that, or damaged because of that. The next point is line width. Line width is spread of the along the wavelength, the main wavelength. For LEDs between 800 to 800 nanometer, the spread is 20 to 40 nanometer. But for higher wavelengths, this spread increases to for a range of 50 to 100 nanometers. So there is quite a spread of wavelength for LEDs. But laser diodes are very sharp, very intense, and they do not have a huge spread. So they are very specific, very much directional. That's why it is 1 to 5 nanometer. Now the rise time. Rise time perhaps you have already studied earlier. It is for a device, rise time we define as the time taken by the device to rise from 10% to 90% of its value, maximum value. So the time taken by LED to rise from 10% to 90% of its maximum value is, or output power is 2 to 259 nanoseconds. While for laser diodes, imagine it is 0.05 to 1 nanosecond. So quick. Coherence. The next property that we talk about is coherence. Coherence means every photon that comes out is emitted from LED or laser diodes in whichever form, since light is coming out. If the photons have a constant phase relation, then it is known as coherent. If they do not have a phase relation between the photons, the consecutive photons or corresponding photons, then it is non-coherent. For LEDs it is non-coherent, and for laser diodes it's highly coherent. Spot size, that means the beam that is formed. Normally an LED has a spot size of 100 micrometers, but for laser diodes it is 35 micrometer for vertical cavity, that is surface emitting laser, and 10 micrometer for single mode laser. There are specific types of lasers and the spot size. So it is very less. So you can imagine it's intense and very specified. Now it is suitable for applications. Obviously, suitability of applications for LEDs, it is almost every application is applicable to it. While for laser diodes, we have a specified or limited applications. Reliability, LEDs are more reliable than laser diodes because laser diodes, the maintenance and everything is very high. It has to be maintained, it has to be cooled, the temperature, a little bit of variation in temperature will cause output powers to swing from this to that, and even the threshold currents requirement will increase severely. So everything becomes very unreliable at that level. So LEDs are more reliable than laser diodes. Modulation bandwidth, for LEDs the modulation is limited by the carrier, but for laser diodes the modulation bandwidth is huge. It is 2000 to 6000 megahertz. The range of operation in terms of frequencies, the abilities, capabilities are, LEDs are good up to 300 megahertz, and obviously for laser diodes there is unlimited range. And usage, LEDs are suitable for short haul or short distance routes where moderate data rates are required, and laser diodes are preferable for long haul or long distance routes where high data rates are required. Now we come to the questions of what we just studied now. It completes our discussion on laser diodes as an optical source for optical transmitter. First, what is the basic structure of laser diode that we have just discussed, the Fabry Perot cavity that is required and the entire thing. And here you just need to remember that the photon that comes out, that is when it falls from higher energy state to lower energy state, the excess energy E is equal to h nu, which is the Planck's equation, where h is Planck's constant and nu is the frequency of the photon that is emitted. Now here the next question is, why is an LD called injection laser? We discussed because the a huge number of carriers have to be injected into the active layer for population inversion to take place, so that lasing takes place. That is why it is known as injection laser. What are the factors that determine the output power of LD? We just referred to it, the forward current as well as the temperature of the junction. Both are determine the output power of a laser diode. What is population inversion? I have discussed it in details. Next is stimulated emission. I started at the very beginning I told you what is stimulated emission, what is spontaneous emission. So you have to just define what is stimulated emission. Then what are LDs preferred, why are LDs preferred over LEDs? The preferences, obviously you have a comparison chart. So wherever laser diodes have an advantage over LEDs, that becomes the reason for its preference. Next question is, what are the advantages of LEDs over LEDs? If you look at the same comparison chart, LEDs are better in some aspects in comparison to laser diodes. So that becomes the advantage of LEDs over laser diodes. So that completes our discussion on laser diodes as optical source for optical transmitters. Thank you.